taxes suck, but you know what sucks more? Not paying and getting in trouble. Hi everyone, it's me again, Ceej Tantengco, and today we're continuing our series about how to racket till you make it. You know, we've all had those moments as a freelancer where we stop and we catch ourselves and we think, sana natutunan ko sa college ko, no? Sana may class na ganito nung nasa university pa ako. Wait, dapat pa kumuha ako ng management electives. And that's because schools are great at teaching us our technical skills. But they're also what I like to call career-adjacent skills that help us manage our own careers as freelancers. So today I'm going to be sharing 3 of those with you, and more importantly, I'm going to share how you can learn them as an adult. Let's go! Let's start by talking about taxes. Everyone has it? Nobody likes it. This stumps a lot of my friends who go from a regular job into becoming a freelancer, because when you work in a normal office, you have an entire department or a person whose job it is just to take care of everyone's tax filings, everyone's tax returns. And when you become a full-time freelancer, you're on your own, and there are a lot of questions. How do I get a receipt? How do I fill up these forms? How do I do the math? If you want to complain about taxes, comment it below. This is a safe space. I also know a lot of freelancers who straight up don't pay their taxes and haven't paid their taxes for years because they think that as long as the client already withheld some tax, then they're good. Or they think that it's not like anyone's gonna go catch them because year after year they don't pay taxes, they don't file taxes, and nothing happens to them. They're half right. You know, it really is easy and tempting to not do your taxes because there aren't any immediate repercussions. No one is going to call your house on the 16th because you didn't pay taxes on 15th. But at the same time, they will eventually get you. The moment that you get a regular job, someone is going to run your number and they're going to find an open case for every tax filing that you missed. And every open case comes with a penalty with money. And we work too hard for our money to let it go to waste on stupid penalties, right? I'm speaking from experience because I have my own tax nightmare. When I was in college, I got myself a TIN number because I was gonna freelance and write an article for a magazine. It was a tiny article that just paid me 1,500 pesos. They deducted 150 as the tax. So I received 1,350. That's like, it's not a lot, okay? I went on my way thinking, okay, they took the tax then, I guess it's withheld. 3 years later, I've graduated, I've taken my first regular job, and someone from the accounting department calls me and says, you have so many open cases because every month since you got your TIN number, you were supposed to have been filing your monthly percentage tax returns. Each month, I was being penalized 1,000 pesos, and add the interest, add, you know, whatever else, I was being slapped with a 60,000 peso penalty as a fresh grad whose salary in a month was 20,000 pesos. I physically had to go to the BIR myself. I would go there every day for several weeks, just kill time, sitting there waiting for people to talk to me, trying to make my case. I gave them affidavits saying I was a student. Eventually, they lowered my penalty to 12,000 pesos. That was still more than 50% of my monthly salary, but I was happy to take it instead of paying 60,000. So please pay your taxes. Several tips I've learned over the years to keep my taxes straight is get a clear book for all of your forms. That helps you stay organized so you're not cramming at the last minute and digging papers out of whatever bag you use. Ask for your BIR form 2307. That is the form that tells you how much tax was withheld from your payment after every project is completed. You can also study taxes. So my friend Mickey Ingles is a lawyer and an author, and he has a book out called Taxes Made Less Taxing. Technically, it's a review book for people who are in law school or people who are studying for the bar, but if you want to get serious about doing your taxes yourself, go for it. It's a great resource. And another thing I get asked a lot is, How do you know when it's time to get your own accountant? For many years, I actually did my own taxes myself. And that was because I was younger and I didn't have a lot of jobs back then, and I didn't have a lot of money either. So doing the math of how much does it cost to hire an accountant versus how much do I make in a day and how many days will it cost for me to cover the cost of paying an accountant, the math just didn't make sense. But now that I am older and I do have more jobs, I finally made the decision to get myself an accountant this year. Yay! Asenso sa buhay! The time that I would spend sitting in the BIR trying to do my taxes is time better spent working and earning. So have that conversation with yourself, and only you can decide when it is the right time for you. The next thing that I wish they taught us in college is how to price your work. Now for me, the first question you should be asking here is how much is your time worth to yourself and to your client? The minimum wage in the Philippines is 537 pesos. Is that necessarily fair? Not really, if you ask me. I think in an ideal world, nobody would be getting paid that little considering the cost of living in Manila. But in terms of how you price for yourself, the more education and training you received, price goes up. The more specialized your work, price goes up. The fewer people there are who can do the work that you do, price goes up. There always is an element of compromise, and I say this because everything I just said pertains to me as a late 20s consultant who has been working for almost a decade. But if you're a fresh grad, the need to compromise is even higher, because no matter how good your college grades are, no matter how expensive your university is, you are entering the job without real-world experience, without the years of working in that environment. You are still learning, you're still building your career. I did take a lot of low-paying jobs in my early days as a freelancer, not because I didn't know my worth, but because I understood that I was upskilling so that I could be more competitive with the people, the other freelancers in my space. I did it with the knowledge that once I upskilled, I would be able to price at a rate that I like more, which I do now. Another thing you can do is build taxes into your fees. Say you're pricing yourself for a job and you feel comfortable asking for this much. After taxes, you're actually only gonna get this much. So you might as well bring your prices up to here so that after taxes, it's back to where you were comfortable in the first place. And then the last thing that I would recommend in pricing is really understanding that more work equals more pay. This is a common problem that creative freelancers go through because we have a tendency that when a client asks for something extra, you're like, oh, okay, I'll do it. It starts off with, could you just add this thing? And the next thing you know, oh, could you maybe give me another option of this one? Oh, actually, no, could you give me this one? And then the next thing you know, you've created so many exports of the same file, but you're really only getting paid for one. So I would say, be very clear with your terms and conditions whenever you enter into agreements with people. For example, a client is getting you to design their logo. In your contract, don't just put logo design. Instead, you can put logo design as the header, but under that say that you're going to give 3 studies to the client, 3 directions in which the brand could go, and then they're to pick one. And from that one study, that will be the peg for the rest of the work. They're entitled to 2 or 3 revisions, depending on what you feel comfortable with, given the price. So that's more specific, it protects you, and it's more clarity for yourself as well as for your client. And finally, the third thing that I wish they taught us in school but didn't is how to negotiate. Now, a lot of people feel nervous or awkward with negotiating, so I just want to get this out there. Let's normalize negotiating. Just because you're negotiating, it doesn't mean that you're being difficult. It doesn't mean that you're being a diva. It doesn't mean that you're being hostile. At the same time, if a client is negotiating with you, that doesn't always mean that they're being hostile as well. Sometimes we're just in the process of understanding values and coming to an agreement. The way that I like to think about negotiating is it shouldn't come from a place of being defensive or being argumentative. Instead, it should come from a place of proactively trying to help your client understand your value and giving them reasons and proof of what you bring to the table so that they're more comfortable compromising with you at an amount that you are both happy with. For example, a client asks you, what is your rate for the scope of work? Don't just give them the rate. Tell them who you've worked with in the past. Give them an overview of projects you may have had that are similar to what you're being asked to do now. Show them the kind of work that you are capable of doing by linking them to projects you did in the past. And those are the 3 things that I wish I learned back in college that I had to learn the hard way. I hope it was useful for you, and I just want to leave you with this thought. No matter who you are, there are always things that you're gonna look back on and think, I wish I learned that sooner. That's not because we're inept. That's just because we're human, and that's life. And there's no reason why you shouldn't pick up these skills later on as a professional, as an adult. So keep trying, keep working, and we're gonna rack it till we make it. Again, I'm Ceej Tantengco. Follow me on the links there. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. You can also like, comment to let me know what you want to see in the next Racket Till You Make It series, and share this video with a friend who's looking for some freelance tips. You can find me on social media at Ceej the Day, and I'm gonna see you here for the next video. Take care.